Alrighty guys, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be focused on the door panels and the exterior door moldings on the 05 Neon. We're going to be working on removing the windows, the belt molding, the door appliques, and all the interior panels as well, so we can access the door handles, remove those, as well as the mirrors, so these doors can be prepped and get them ready for paint along with the rest of the car. So let's get to work and get this all taken apart. To remove, as you guys saw, there's 3 screws holding it on, one in the grab handle here, one behind this cover in the opener handle, and one here in the middle of this area that closes behind the dashboard. Remove those 3 screws, and the rest of the door panel is held on by these clips, which are fairly difficult to get out, I must say. You know, Mopar and their clips. But once those are removed, the door panel just pops off. There's one connection for the power locks, 2 connections down here for the windows, and another connection for the mirrors. So once that's all removed, you're able to take the door panel off and gain access to the rest of the inside of the door. So our next task will be to remove the interior moisture shield. We'll just use the razor blade, go between this gasket that's on here, and that'll allow it to stick back once we put it back on. So let's get going on this. We'll remove this moisture shield, get in here, and start taking apart the window tracks, and we'll be able to access the door handle from the inside of the door, get that taken out, and continue on. So now we have our moisture shield removed from the door. Next thing we're going to start working on is removing the window track. Like I said, the window tracks in this door are held in by 2 bolts on either side, here, and in the front there is one here, and it looks like that's the only one they have in the front. If I see another one while I'm taking it apart, I'll let you guys know, but until then, we're going to start getting that removed. To do this, I find the best way is to roll the window down so you can disconnect the window from the regulator. You can see the bolts for it right here and right here. So we'll lower it down to about this portion where we'll be able to disconnect it and have full access to the track. Once we unbolt the track, it'll be able to slide up and out this way, and we'll be able to remove it from the door. And I should also mention, in order to roll the window down, we're going to have to grab our door panel again, connect up the main 2 harnesses for the window switches, and we will use the switches in the door panel to roll the window down. here is the inner belt molding for the door. Runs along the inner edge of the window. This is the outer belt molding of the door. Now these are a little different than most I've seen. Most just clip on to the seam along here. These don't. These use 3 sets of tabs. They look like that. They clip into slots in the door, and these can typically be removed by either using a pick tool or very carefully pulling and pushing this way and down on them to release the tabs from these 3 holes in the door. The outer belt molding is the same way. You can see how these are clipped on to the inside of the door right here. There's one here, and there's another one up front, typically right in here. I don't know if I can get the camera in. Yeah, you can kind of see it clipped on right here. It's bigger and looks different than the other 2. Be careful not to break these inner ones. If you guys are working on a neon and removing these parts are discontinued. So be very careful not to break these tabs, or they will not fit back in correctly when you reassemble the door. Now I'm going to move on to removing the outer belt molding of this door. I know from previous experience working with these that in addition to the 3 sets of tabs that hold these on the back side, there is also a thin strip of 3M adhesive that holds these on from the factory. I find the best way to start is to lift up this edge and start cutting the adhesive with a thin razor blade, and try your best not to cut the paint. Once you've removed that strip of 3M adhesive, this belt molding should come right off. So here's the outer belt molding removed. You can now see the 3 sets of tabs that hold this onto the door, and that would be where the small bead of double-sided adhesive would run, right along here where my thumb is. And you can see we got it off without cutting the paint and without damaging the belt molding, so I'll call that a success. Now let's move on to removing this window track and removing this door pillar applique. So now with the window track removed, you can see the door pillar applique. This is a pretty simple piece to take off of the car. It's only held on by these 3 little torque screws on the inside of the window track. Once those are removed, it will come off this way. This edge clips onto the back of the door right there, all the way down. But the only fasteners you need to worry about are these 3 on the inside of the track. So let's get those taken off and remove this pillar. Next, we're going to remove this exterior decorative molding on the door. It's held on by 2 thin beads of double-sided adhesive, one on the top and one on the bottom. What I'm going to do to remove this as easy as possible without damaging it is gently pry at one end, either here or here, and gently go along behind the back with a thin razor blade and cut the layer of adhesive that's holding this on. So let's get started. Hope we don't break anything, and let's show you guys how this is done. So we got the exterior decorative molding off the door. Came off pretty easily once I got started. As you can see, we got it off without damaging or breaking it. bending it in any way. Came off really nicely. So we'll get a magic eraser wheel and remove all of that excess adhesive from the door before the car goes in for paint. Now let's move on to the last thing we have to take off of this door, which is the exterior door handle. We'll remove that from the inside of the door using 2 bolts. There's one at this end and one up front at this end. Once we get those out, we'll disconnect the linkages. This door handle will come out. Finish this driver's door. We'll move on to showing you guys how the back door is taken apart. Moving on to the back doors, guys, the first and foremost thing that you're going to need to do when taking apart one of these doors is remove this crank window handle here. To do this, there's an E-clip behind the handle. You won't be able to see it on camera, but when I pull it out, you'll be able to see it. There is a tool to remove this clip, but I find a regular standard pick tool, a hooked pick tool, is able to get in behind and grab onto the E-clip and remove it. Once that clip's removed, the handle comes off along with this little retainer behind it, and then that gives you access to start removing the door panel, which is done basically the same way as the front door panels I showed you, except this door panel only has 1 screw in the handle and 1 screw in the door opener handle here. The rest of it's held on by push pin tabs around the back, and there's no additional screws other than those 2. So now we're going to get this panel removed from the car. So now that we're inside the rear door, we're going to follow basically the same process we did on the front door when it comes to removing the window track and the window glass itself. This window glass can be removed the same way with 2 8mm bolts that affix to the regulator, followed by 1 bolt in the front for the track and 1 bolt in the back for the track. Once that's done, the glass can be taken out, the track can be removed, and we can move on to removing the interior, exterior belt moldings, as well as the handle and the C-pillar applique on the outside of the car. So let's get going on that and get this door knocked out. Is going to be the end of today's video, guys. We got a ton accomplished in this video. We got all 4 doors disassembled completely to the point where they will be ready for paint when the car goes into the body shop. If you guys found this video helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. In the next video, we're going to be working on debadging the trunk from all of its emblems, removing the tail lights, the rear bumper, the key latch, this rear brake light, and everything inside the trunk, so this can also be ready for paint. So until then, hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching.